Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. So last night I spent my entire evening playing through Fire Emblem Engage for the first time. Now I didn't get all the way through the game, but I did check how many chapters there are, and I think I'm about a third of the way through it. Almost like there are plenty of paralogs to do, so I'm sure there's plenty of content. It seems to be about the same length of time that Awakening took. And Awakening was about 15 hours for to go through the story, and then for all the supplementary stuff it takes another 35. So I put 100 hours into Awakening, considering I got everyone married and did all this hardcore stuff. I loved Awakening, just like I'm loving Engage. And that's something really important to point out here, is that tone wise, when it comes to design, to the designs, when it comes to the animations, to the style, to the story, to the gameplay, to the map, it feels very much like Fire Emblem Engage is indeed a spiritual successor to Awakening. I hesitate to call it a direct sequel because Martha's in it, but he's not the protagonist or anything. You have a lot of Awakening characters in it. You have a lot of things, but this is very much its own thing in the Fire Emblem universe. A world set in a in a future where people use the powers of old Fire Emblem protagonists through these rings that can call them forth from the void to do battle with them. So you can wear a ring with Marth in it, and you can summon Marth if you know the proper incantation. So it is very much like Awakening. It does very much feel like an anniversary title. However, unlike Awakening, which was very, very fixated on the Arcanea games, which was set in the distant future of the continent where Marth's people have migrated to a new kingdom, established the Hallidom of Elise. This seems to be a composite series where every Fire Emblem series has up to this point has converged into this one game. It's really startling to see characters like Marth, Ike, Roy, Lindis, and Micaiah all in a game together, interacting with each other to a certain extent and commenting on each other. I got a line of dialogue from Celica talking about how Marth was born in a continent close to hers, so she's vaguely aware of who he is, right? So it's an interesting kind of thing in which we haven't really seen classic characters interact in this capacity yet. It really does feel like this is the Super Smash Bros. For Fire Emblem games, essentially, just how Mario Kart is the Smash Bros. For Mario games, for the Mario universe. This feels like it's the Smash Bros. For Fire Emblem in that regard, because not only is it throwing together all of these old characters that you really, really love, you're also being introduced to new ones that you didn't really know you wanted. I'm very, very surprised at how much how engaged I am with the plot here, with the character of Alir. I named mine Crest because of the toothpaste hair. The protagonist, waking up from a long slumber to go on this adventure in this world he doesn't know about, making new friends, and going to battle against other kingdoms along the way. It's a lot like Awakening in the sense where you are a character in this world that you don't know anything about, meeting people you've never heard of before, and deciding to be a good person and help these people out in their problems or whatever may arise. You're fighting an objective evil. This is not, from what I can see anyway, a morally great game at all. This is very, very tonally different from Three Houses, and especially Fates. Well, especially Three Houses. This is a very different game for those games in that it seems to harken back more to the black and white morality of older games. And honestly, I do think this really needs to be said. I don't think that's a bad thing. As I get older, I begin to appreciate more and more that the making things morally gray doesn't necessarily make them more interesting or more engaging, right? You are do what you want to do creatively, right? You should really think about what you want to accomplish and what you want to get across. And in Gage's case, like they wanted to make a very straightforward Fire Emblem story when they haven't done so in a very, very long time. Like it's been a decade since Awakening, and I've actually gone back and like thought about this. No other Fire Emblem game has this straightforward of a plot since Awakening. So it's been a straight up decade since we've gotten a game like this, and it feels almost like it's long overdue. It feels like the stereotypical Fire Emblem formula is almost a breath of fresh air at this point. Because, when I first saw the idea of like, oh, you're a dragon waking up from your long slumber to save the world, I thought it was unbearably generic. But now that I've seen it in action, now that I've played it, this is, I think, probably going to be one of my favorite games of 2023. I don't want to call it my favorite because I'm sure Tears of the Kingdom will eclipse it. I'm sure, like, there's some unannounced games that are coming out this year that I'll like more. Pikmin 4 might be like the GOAT, like Octopath Traveler 2, Cereza and the Lost Demon. Uh, there's all these like products that I'm really looking forward to that I may like more, may or may not like more. But at this point, in January, Fire Emblem Engage is looking like it's going to be my game of the year 2023. Like I have been enraptured with this ever since I turned it on. Like everything about it, from its presentation to its style to its visuals, like it all just oozes style. And the gameplay, I think, is the best it's been in years. I love Three Houses, but like that game was deeply flawed in a lot of ways. Like I was surprised that Three Houses was as popular as it was, considering how like grindy it was, how convoluted the story was, how you were required to play like all four routes to really get like the full context of what was going on. But like there are things about Three Houses that I don't think any other game has accomplished ever. Like for example, Edelgard. Like presenting like such a morally gray character in this setting, and making her motivations seem somehow relatable while still like downright malicious and evil is was a really bold direction to take, especially since she goes to great lengths to assure you that like she is 100% confident that what she is doing is the right thing. Like it's very interesting seeing someone like that go up against like the king of delusion, Dimitri, and just trying her best to dominate the entire continent. It's really compelling. I love Three Houses a lot. Like when it comes to like the character motivations and the lore and stuff like that. But like the gameplay itself is not great. I think the meta. I was hearing people talk about this on 4chan, and I think I kind of agree. I think the meta to that game basically revolves around like making everyone a flyer, because like flyers are OP in this game. I think I noticed that on my most recent playthrough, where like I was just making everyone a flyer, and I was just kind of, I was just kind of feeling like, wait, is this the right thing to do? I have I I think Three Houses has a lot of balancing problems. I think it's too grindy. I think like the actual story isn't that great. Now the lore is fantastic, but the story isn't good. There are things to complain about with Three Houses. Okay, like I've always had a lot of problems with that game. Fate was terrible. My favorite Fire Emblem game in recent years, the Fates was terrible. Okay, let's be real. Engage, I think, is better than both. I think Engage really does a great job in not only creating a new, interesting setting that pays homage to like the classic games in the franchise, but it also is a really, really solid, very good strategy RPG. I am very, very invested in just seeing which characters become my favorite and like how I go about like encountering each issue and just how the game develops from here. Because I am just having a blast with this. Utilizing these characters to their fullest capacity. It's incredible how this game really does have that awakening kind of feel to it, where like every character feels distinct and interesting. And I'm curious if the second half of the game, if it's going to do the same thing that Awakening did, in which like at a certain point you just stop getting new characters. But I'll have to see. I'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, I haven't finished the game yet. I think I'm on like chapter 9 or something. But yeah, the game overall has been like an absolute treat so far. If you have not played Fire Emblem Engage, you are really, really missing out.